From rock ballads to pop jubilance to country tunes and everything else in between, today's artist is the most nominated in her category and tragically still no wins. We are in season 3 of Oscar Rewind, and today I am looking at Touchstone Pictures and Jerry Bruckheimer's Con Air. Written by Scott Rosenberg and directed by Simon West, the film opened in the summer of 1997. What's up, everybody? Cinephile Mike here, and it's a new episode of Oscar Rewind, where I look back at the films of this past year's Oscar nominees and winners. Make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any of these throwbacks. We're moving along in Chapter 5, The Sound of Oscar. This chapter focuses on the composers, songwriters, and sound teams that orally entertained us this past award season. Today, we look at famed songwriter who's on Rewind again this year for another nod and tragic loss, the one, the only, Diane Warren, who earned her 17th nomination this year for Dear Me, performed by Kesha, that was part of a new documentary about Warren, which touched on all said Oscar experiences. Almost 30 years ago, she penned the beautiful How Do I Live, which bookends Con Air, and was one of the most biggest controversies in music history. We're going to get to that. If you've never seen Con Air, here's your quick spoiler-free setup. Cameron Poe, an honorably discharged Army Ranger played by Nicolas Cage, after serving 8 years in prison for accidentally killing a man who attacked him and harassed his wife, is proud to be returning home to his loving wife Tricia, played by Monica Potter, and meet his daughter Casey, played by Landry Albright, born shortly after he was convicted. To get home, he hitches a ride on a prison transport plane. This plane, which he rides with his cellmate and friend Baby-O, played by Michael T. Williamson, is meant to be a quick jump. But when other passengers are loaded on, including Nathan Diamond Dog Jones, played by Ving Rhames, Joe Pinball Parker, played by Dave Chappelle, Johnny 23 Baca, played by Danny Trejo, and amongst all of the others, the worst of them all, Cyrus the Virus Grissom, played with glee by John Malkovich, the tensions rise. And in almost no time, as soon as that plane is off the ground, Cyrus and the others hijack the plane and take it over, including even to where there's a stop where they exchange prisoners, replace guards, and pick up even more dangerous criminals, including the man who even Cyrus might fear, Garland, the Marietta Mangler Green, played by Steve Buscemi, who is loaded onto the plane in his best Hannibal Lecter gear. While this flight being overtaken is happening, U.S. Marshal Vince Larkin, played by John Cusack, and DEA agent Duncan Malloy, played by Cole Meany, need to do all they can to take the plane, but this will not be without its challenges. Poe tries many ways to notify and communicate with the authorities, but this gets dangerous as some of the other passengers learn he isn't who he necessarily poses as, and all will come to a head at a landing site in Carson City and beyond, with the film attempting as many Mission Impossible-style action sequences as it can. Look, this film, it was one of those popcorn movies that we loved in the 90s and early aughts that tragically we don't really get anymore. But, you know, in that heyday of Con Air, Armageddon, Face Off, Men in Black, Mission Impossible, you know, those films work when they know not to take themselves too seriously, and that's where Con Air succeeds. They even laugh at the meta-ness of it all before meta was a big thing in films. For example, one of my biggest laughs comes when Steve Buscemi comes sitting there while the prisoners are all dancing on the plane to Leonard Skinner's Sweet Home Alabama. He simply states, define irony. A bunch of idiots dancing on a plane to a song made famous by a band that dies in a plane crash. That's the kind of movie you're in for. If that humor doesn't entertain you, this one might not be for you. The action sequences are fun. It's a Jerry Bruckheimer film, and we know Nicolas Cage is on board for these. He does a bunch of them. In this film, he has a lot of fun, even if you do kind of feel they pulled certain sequences from the first Mission Impossible, which had come out the year before. And look, this was the phase of him underplaying some of the crazy that Nicolas Cage got known for. I mean, he was still kicking ass, but he was a little more of a grounded, wonderful foil to Malkovich's Cyrus. And let's just say, Malkovich plays his role with a character who rarely raises his voice, but yet commands the respect of those in the room. Cusack, I mean, I'm a huge Cusack fan, but I think he was a little miscast here. But it's fun. He has a few moments to shine. I just don't think of him as action star. And look, as is the case with these films, they're made or broken on the action sequences. But again, these don't disappoint. They aren't so excessive, that it takes away from the story. Scott Rosenberg actually manages to give us a solid story with characters we care about and invest in. And not just Cage's Cameron Poe, but some of the supporting players like Williamson's Baby O, one of the prison guards. And even this really nice moment for Buscemi that you don't expect when he has an interaction with a young girl that he meets at a trailer park. And the sound work, I mean, look, this is Sound Month. I have to call it out here. It's beautifully done. But the song, well, I have to get there now. Look, and the sound is great, but it's really the song that's interesting. That's why we're here. Diane Warren's song, How Do I Live? It's a classic song. But the majority of people, when they think about that song, they think about the original person who recorded it. So when Diane Warren wrote the song, she wrote it for Leanne Rimes to record. And she did. But then the movie studio went against Diane Warren's wishes and went behind Leanne Rimes' back because they felt that at 14, she was too young to really be connected to this and not have the grit they wanted. So they hired Trisha Yearwood to re-record a more mature version, and that's the one that was attached to the film. That was the one that got the Oscar nomination, and that was the one that won the Grammy as well. But it was really interesting at the Grammys, either right after or right before Yearwood won the Grammy, it was Rhimes who performed this song at the Grammy Awards, and her version was a bigger release on the pop charts, on the Billboard Hot 100. It stayed on there for 69 weeks, peaking at number 2, where Yearwood's version, while also peaking at number 2, that was on the Billboard country charts and was only there for 12 weeks. But again, like I said, Rosenberg wrote this script with heart, and it's really about Cameron Poe and the love of his family and what he'll do for them, not just about the convicts. So again, it provides a perfect bookend. That song opens the film, ends the film, and it's beautiful. We all still sing it now. Now, let's talk about the box office and the awards. Currently, Con Air sits with $101,117,573 domestically and $122,894,661 internationally, giving it a worldwide take of $224,012,234. Critically, it has a 59% tomato meter from 70 reviews, a 75% popcorn meter from over 250,000 audience reviews, and with over a dozen nods and wins, worth noting, in addition to Warren's Best Song nomination at the Oscars, it was also nominated for Best Sound. No surprise there. Ironically, it was also nominated for Worst Original Song. I so don't agree at the Razzies. And it won a Razzie for Worst Reckless Disregard for Human Life and Public Property. Yeah, that one made me chuckle when I saw that, for obvious reasons that I won't spoil until you see the film. One more thing worth noting, it had 2 Guild nods from the Motion Picture Sound Editors for Best Effects and Foley for dialogue and for editing and Foley, and also for dialogue and ADR. So, fitting that we have worked this one into Sound Month also. Simple, fun, kind of stupid. Con Air, it's a delightful middle road 3-star film. Guilty pleasure, yes. In the upper echelon, no, but you're definitely going to enjoy it. It's currently streaming on AMC Plus, or if you want some extra action, you can pick up the extended edition, which is about 10 minutes longer, available only on DVD, not even on Blu-ray or 4K, only on DVD. Yeah, and that's where we're going to end it for episode 41 of season 3 of Oscar Rewind. If you enjoyed this episode and want to check out the others, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Check out the playlists, and let me know in the comments, what's your favorite Nicolas Cage performance? Please follow me on all social media platforms and check out my website, cinephilemike.com, for more exclusive cinematic content. I will see you all for the next Rewind, but until then, this is Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.